There is a respect that is earned, one that is negotiated, one that is imposed. And then there is a respect that simply exists, without conditions, without tests to pass, without needing to explain why it is deserved. And this is precisely the kind of respect that can't be asked for. Because the very moment it has to be asked for, something breaks, as if the invisible thread holding dignity and inner resonance together were replaced by an agreement, by a fragile pact. There are people who carry an aura. Here, aura means respect as a felt perception, as silent resonance, as something that either exists or doesn't. An aura is sensed, it is emanated. It isn't built on tone of voice, posture, harsh statements, or rules. It is what is breathed in from presence, from inner steadiness, from restraint, from a certain silence that doesn't compromise, yet never turns aggressive. It is a personal energy that cannot be negotiated, and it can be felt even in silence. Spontaneous respect is granted when inner order is sensed, not need. Asking for respect implies the other person was not offering it spontaneously. It implies a boundary had to be drawn, words had to be spoken that were never meant to be said, perhaps in a tone that already felt foreign. And when it happens, even if respect is obtained, something contracts, as if, to receive that minimum recognition, it was necessary to become someone else. And what will never be obtained is an aura, only a status, a cloak of the respected individual, a glass dome politely granted. Something arrives even before respect is given, something that pulses in the way you sit in front of someone, in the way your gaze lands, in the distance you keep or shorten, something that does not need to be explained, because it is perceived before logic ever enters. Real respect isn't a lesson in manners. It's the sensation that arises when you're in front of someone who doesn't need to defend themselves, yet isn't aggressive. Someone open, but not available to everyone. Someone kind, but not compliant. Someone who can listen, but isn't willing to carry what isn't theirs. That is where the respect you should never have to ask for begins. And yet many learn from a young age that respect has to be conquered, proven, sweated for, explained, as if existence alone were not enough, as if every breath had to be worth something. So people grow up chasing approval, trying to be clear enough, good enough, useful enough to deserve attention. And over time, they get used to tolerating deep absences just to avoid disturbing, just to avoid being seen as too sensitive or too demanding. Those who ask for respect often do it late, when ambiguous words have already been allowed to pass, evasive looks, gestures that have created dynamics that smell of compromise, when more has already been offered than could be afforded, in the hope that the other person would understand on their own the value in front of them. And then, yes, the moment of the request arrives, the moment in which, with a calm voice or a broken one, it is said, "You're not respecting me." But even when it is true, even when it would be right to say it, that moment marks a before and an after. Because if you are forced to ask for respect, you are already speaking from a place that has been violated. Asking for respect is already a defeat of the natural, respectful bond between two people. The respect you should never have to ask for is the respect that rises from inner clarity, from a silent alignment between what you are and what you transmit. It is like a magnetic field that says everything without saying anything, and whoever meets it feels it, in the body, before the mind. It is sensed in the details, in how you move, in how you look, in what you don't say. This is not superiority, and not hardness either. On the contrary, deep, unrequested respect is born from the softness of someone who isn't afraid, from availability that doesn't sell itself, from presence that doesn't collapse into the need to please. Respect is often confused with fear, with distance, with authority, but that is a superficial respect, and it vanishes the moment the guard drops. Real respect is tender and steady. It is a form of care that exists even without intimacy. It is the way words are handled when speaking to someone who is felt as whole. If respect has had to be begged for in life, perhaps it has been spoken about too late. Perhaps adaptation happened. Excuses were made, justifications offered. They're tired. They don't mean it. They don't understand me. But bending again and again breaks a person. And so it was easy to believe the problem was your tone, your manner, your presence, and yet it is not always your fault. There are environments where respect is absent like thin air, where sarcasm, manipulation, intrusion are normal, where defending yourself gets you accused of being cold, where protecting yourself gets you labeled rigid. In places like these, respect becomes a prize, not a starting point. But when you begin to truly respect yourself, you stop asking, you begin to be. And when you truly are, whoever can feel it, feels it. Whoever can't, moves away. And it no longer matters, because respect is not something to obtain, but something to emanate. It takes courage, of course, because stopping the request for respect also means giving up being understood by everyone, giving up pleasing everyone. It means accepting that someone will call you distant, difficult, cold, but you know you are not. You are simply whole, and someone who is whole cannot be divided just to please others. The respect you should never have to ask for is also what shows itself in choices, in what is no longer tolerated, in the places you no longer want to enter, in the relationships you no longer feed. It is a new posture in the world, not rigid, not angry, but clearly defined, like a line that doesn't shout, but can be seen. Many will think it is pride that you have changed, that you have hardened, but it is only that for too long you tried to explain light to someone who could only see shadow. Now there is no explaining. Now there is illumination, and if someone covers their eyes, that is their choice. Not everyone will accept it. Some will test boundaries, others will provoke to see whether you react, whether you can be made tame again. But you are not here to convince anyone. Respect isn't imposed, it is embodied. There are silences louder than 1,000 requests. There are looks that ask for nothing, yet say everything. There are presences that do not seek attention and still draw respect. Because something moves inside those who have learned to stand even after being trampled. Not revenge, not resentment. Memory transformed. Every absence received turned into a brick to build a new threshold. That threshold where those who cannot recognize stop, and only those who can truly see pass through. It isn't always possible to avoid asking for respect. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's educational. But if it becomes a habit, then it is a signal that something is out of balance, that too much is being given or too little is being received, that you are explaining yourself more than necessary, that you are waiting for an outside recognition to feel aligned. If you have to ask for respect, you are asking the other person to do work that belongs to you, and then it is time to return inward, to listen again, to recenter, to ask, am I waiting for them to respect me in order to respect myself? If the answer is yes, then it is time to change course. Because the respect you should never have to ask for always begins inside. It can't be bought, it can't be taught, it can't be demanded. It's cultivated, it's felt, it's become. This is not an indictment, it is not an accusation, but it can be a mirror, and a mirror does not judge, it reflects. In Indigo, recognizing yourself is this: a place with no face, no blame, no demand. Those who recognize themselves do. Those who stop, stop. Whoever goes through it alone. But from that moment on, something has already taken shape, and it will never be the same.